a fascinating player. I mean, that's exactly what the tennis world needed. Very charismatic, a joy to watch. You know, he's a real artist on the tennis court.
Penetrate the court enough, and he has that kind of confidence in his game. Alcaraz badly wanted to win, wanted to come out and...
The landscape of professional tennis has been irrevocably altered by a figure of immense charisma and undeniable artistry. Carlos Alcaraz arrived exactly when the sport required a fresh infusion of energy, captivating audiences with a stylistic flair that felt truly revolutionary. However, the atmosphere shifted dramatically on a recent Sunday in Monte Carlo. As the red clay settled, Jannik Sinner stood victorious while Alcaraz departed the court, his status as the world's top-ranked player officially extinguished. This decline wasn't a sudden anomaly, but the culmination of a worrying trend. Recent losses to lower-ranked opponents like Sebastian Korda and Daniil Medvedev have exposed a vulnerability in a champion who once seemed virtually invincible. When a seasoned veteran like Boris Becker speaks, the tennis community listens with rapt attention. During the Monte Carlo Masters, Becker bypassed the usual excuses regarding physical injuries or tactical errors, instead utilizing a single, devastating word: bored. This diagnosis suggests a profound psychological disconnect, implying that the routine of dominance has stripped Alcaraz of his competitive fire. While Becker's assessment was delivered with professional diplomacy, Nick Kyrgios was far more blunt in his critique. During the summer of 2025, Kyrgios looked directly into the lens and identified Alcaraz's burgeoning social life and romantic distractions as the primary catalysts for his downfall. This juxtaposition of boredom versus distraction creates a complex narrative surrounding the young Spaniard's Carlos Alcaraz are nothing short of historic. By the time he celebrated his 22nd birthday in May 2025, he had already secured 4 Grand Slam titles, a feat that leaves most peers in the dust as they struggle through the challenger circuit. By early 2026, he achieved the rare and prestigious career Grand Slam in Melbourne, becoming the youngest man in the Open era to hold all 4 major trophies simultaneously. On paper, he is the most complete athlete the sport has ever seen. Yet, despite this unprecedented success, the boredom narrative persists. Becker suggests that for a true artist like Alcaraz, if the victory comes too easily, the timeline of Alcaraz's mental struggle can be traced back to March 2025 at the Miami Open. Following an unexpected early exit against a veteran ranked outside the top 50, Alcaraz made a startling admission. He had contemplated walking away from the game entirely. This wasn't a request for a vacation, it was a crisis of purpose. Becker immediately identified this as a state approaching clinical depression, warning the player's inner circle that they were transforming a young human into a mere machine. Though a mid-season surge of 7 titles temporarily masked these issues under a mountain of silverware, the underlying psychological weight and the immense pressure of global expectation never truly dissipated for the young champion. Transitioning into 2026, the cracks in the armor became impossible to overlook. Despite a career Grand Slam win in Australia, Alcaraz's performance began to stutter in crucial Masters events. After losing his #1 ranking to Sinner in Monte Carlo, Alcaraz blamed his failure on poor execution during high-stakes moments and unpredictable weather conditions. However, seasoned observers like Becker saw something deeper than tactical errors or swirling winds. They saw a fragmented state of mind. The discussion has now shifted from his explosive physical attributes, which many believe are the greatest the world has ever seen, to his internal fortitude. The question is no longer about his fast twitch muscles, but whether his mind. Becker's boredom theory and Kyrgios's distraction claims reveals a singular truth viewed through different lenses. Jannik Sinner would ultimately have a superior career because of his singular focus. He pointed toward Alcaraz's alleged penchant for nightlife and social freedom as a fatal flaw. Even respected coach Patrick Muratoglu noted the erratic mental ups and downs within Alcaraz's matches compared to Sinner's relentless, unwavering intensity. Kyrgios' warning signs that derailed his own professional journey is a cautionary tale of a veteran seeing a younger version of him. Comparing Alcaraz to the Big Three reveals a stark contrast in lifestyle. Roger Federer practiced total isolation before majors, and Rafael Nadal famously lived a Spartan existence during the clay season. Even Novak Djokovic completely overhauled his biological and social framework to sustain his dominance. While these comparisons may seem harsh for a young man still finding his identity, the sport does not grant handicaps for youth. In contrast, Sinner's private life remains a blank slate, devoid of tabloid headlines, allowing him to focus entirely on the court. Alcaraz's controversial 3-day trip to Ibiza following his Roland Garros victory serves as a perfect example of the normal person. Alcaraz has navigated the nightlife rumors with the poise of a seasoned diplomat, dismissing them as humorous while subtly acknowledging his need for better mental consistency. Yet, his personal life remains a magnet for global speculation. From a lonely admission in a 2023 Vogue profile to being linked with high-profile models like Brooke Snyder and fellow players like Emma Raducanu, the spotlight has been unrelenting. Whether it is dinners with famous DJs or playful "I'm free" comments at the ATP finals, every social move is scrutinized. While a 22-year-old should be allowed a private life, the neurological cost of such high-level social activity in the most demanding sport on earth is a price his predecessors rarely paid. Other legends have been even more biting. Adriano Panata described Alcaraz's recent attitude as listless, suggesting a lack of fundamental motivation during high-profile matches. This matches the absent feeling Becker described, a champion who is physically there but mentally elsewhere. The gap between Alcaraz's breathtaking ceiling and his inexplicable floor is widening, and at the elite level, such gaps are eventually exploited. Furthermore, the departure of his longtime mentor Juan Carlos Ferrero in late 2025 has removed the psychological architecture that supported his rise. Without that continuity, Alcaraz is left to navigate the seductive traps of global fame. Ultimately, the narrative surrounding Carlos Alcaraz is one of human struggle against the backdrop of superstardom. He is not a malfunctioning machine. He is a young man who conquered the world before he finished growing up. Boris Becker's warning that this is a marathon, not a sprint, resonates deeply, yet the exhaust fumes of celebrity make it difficult to see the road ahead. As Sinner reclaims the world #1 spot with a lighter points burden, Alcaraz faces a mountain of 3,300 points to defend. The pressure over the next few months will be staggering. If he cannot find the inspiration Becker mentioned and silence the distractions Kyrgios warned about,
they're going to look at Carlos and what he does and how he loves to be aggressive and move forward, because we lost a lot of that. You don't see the volleying that much, but I think that's going to change because of him.
The divergent paths of Alcaraz and Sinner have created a fascinating study in professional psychology. While Sinner operates with a surgical, almost robotic precision, Alcaraz remains the emotional heart of the tour, susceptible to the very human fluctuations that come with immense fame. The Spanish star often speaks of playing for the joy of the fans, yet that same desire to entertain can lead to the artist's boredom that Becker so astutely identified. When the brilliance becomes effortless, the drive to maintain it often wavers. As the tour moves into the grueling summer heat, the question is no longer whether Alcaraz has the shots to win, but whether he possesses the singular, obsessive focus required to keep pace with Sinner's relentless consistency. The coaching transition from Juan Carlos Ferrero to Samuel Lopez represents more than just a change in personnel. It is a shift in the foundational support system of a champion. Ferrero was the disciplinarian who kept the young phenom grounded, often acting as the buffer between the player and the distractions of the outside world. Without that firm hand, Alcaraz is testing the limits of his own autonomy. Critics argue that the extracurriculars mentioned by Steve Johnson, such as daily golf outings during major tournaments, are symptoms of a relaxing of the internal standards that once defined his rise. At this level of sport, even a 1% drop in preparation can result in a first-round exit. Listlessness on the court is perhaps the most damning indictment a professional athlete can face. For a player like Alcaraz, whose game is built on explosive movement and aggressive in the mistimed volleys and the passive baseline exchanges that characterized his recent losses, this isn't a lack of talent, but a temporary loss of the competitive trance that elite athletes use to block out the noise of the stadium and the tabloids. If the love life circus and the constant media spotlight are indeed draining his mental battery, the recovery process must begin with a radical restructuring of his inner circle. As we look toward the remainder of the 2026 season, the stakes could not be higher for the young Spaniard. He is entering a period where he must defend nearly every major title he holds, while his rivals are in a position to gain ground with every victory. The normal person defense he used regarding his Ibiza trip will no longer suffice when he is standing across the net from a locked-in opponent. The tennis world is watching to see if Alcaraz will heed the warnings of legends like Becker and Kyrgios, or if he will continue to drift. Greatness requires a level of sacrifice that is often uncomfortable, demanding a choice between being a global icon or a legendary competitor. Ultimately, the story of Carlos Alcaraz is a testament to the incredible pressure placed on modern athletes in the digital age. Every dinner, every friendship, and every dip in form is analyzed by millions in real time. Whether he is truly bored or simply distracted, the solution remains the same: a return to the grueling, unglamorous work that put him on the map in the first place. If you value this type of deep, evidence-based analysis that goes beyond the surface-level highlights, make sure to subscribe and join the conversation in the comments below. Is the nightlife truly the issue, or are we witnessing the natural growing pains of a generational talent? The choice is his. Underlying tension in Alcaraz's camp isn't just about lost matches, it's about the erosion of an identity built on grit and relentless energy. When Samuel Lopez stepped in, the tactical focus shifted, yet the emotional anchor seemed to drift. The artist that Becker described is now grappling with the reality that inspiration is a fickle teammate. In the professional circuit, where every opponent spends hours dissecting your weaknesses on video, a lack of inspiration is equivalent to a physical handicap. Alcaraz's recent performance at the Paris Masters against Luca Nardi was a glaring example, a match where he looked physically present, but mentally miles away, wandering through points as if the result was secondary to his thoughts. We must also consider the physical toll that psychological burnout takes on a young body. When a player is physically cooked, as some analysts suggested after the Sunshine Double, it is rarely just about muscle fatigue. It is about the nervous system being fried by the constant glare of the limelight and the relentless cycle of expectation. Alcaraz is currently living in a fishbowl where his every romantic link, from Peggy Gou to Brooks Nada, is treated with the same weight as a Grand Slam final. This constant noise creates a mental static that makes it nearly impossible to find the flow state required to beat a player of Sinner's current, focused caliber. The rivalry between Alcaraz and Sinner has evolved into a clash of ideologies, the flamboyant, social media-friendly superstar versus the quiet, disciplined worker. This narrative isn't just for the fans, it is being lived out on the scoreboard. Sinner's choice to keep his personal life entirely private, shielding his relationship with Leylah Fernandez from the paparazzi, provides him with a sanctuary that Alcaraz currently lacks. While Alcaraz is busy answering questions about his funny comments or his nightlife in press conferences, Sinner is in the gym or the film room. This contrast in lifestyle is starting to dictate the hierarchy of men's tennis, proving that talent alone cannot bridge the gap created by a lack of discipline. What makes this moment so critical for the Spaniard is the looming shadow of the clay court season. This is the surface where he was born to rule, yet it is also where the pressure will be most suffocating. Defending over 3,000 points while the media tracks his every social interaction creates a pressure cooker environment that would break many seasoned veterans. If Alcaraz continues to prioritize the normal person experience over the legendary athlete requirements, we may look back at 2026 as the year the crown slipped for good. The transition from a rising phenom to an established king is the hardest bridge to cross, and Alcaraz is currently standing right in the middle of it. Boris Becker's private advice to Alcaraz, that life is a marathon, was a plea for perspective. At 22, the allure of being the most famous athlete on the planet is incredibly seductive. The parties, the fashion shows, and the celebrity circles offer immediate gratification that a 5-hour match in the heat of Melbourne cannot. However, the history of this sport is littered with artists who chose the limelight over the baseline and watched their careers fade into what-if stories. Alcaraz has the rare opportunity to avoid that path, but it requires him to acknowledge that the funny comments from Kyrgios might actually contain a kernel of painful, necessary truth.
I like to call it like a tier list. I think Alcaraz and Sinner are tier 1 at the moment, and they're comfortably sitting there. I feel like 99% of the tour don't believe that they can beat those two guys at a Grand Slam. And I'd put, Djokovic tier 2 just behind them, and there's a couple other players I'd put there, probably Draper, Fritz. But realistically, these two guys have been at the top of the game now for 2 years.
The evidence is now laid bare: the listless losses, the coaching upheaval, and the undeniable distraction of a global social life. It isn't a conspiracy to bring down a champion, it is a collective observation from those who have been in the arena themselves. Muratoglu, Becker, Panatta, and even the self-admitted cautionary tale, Nick Kyrgios, are all pointing to the same conclusion. Alcaraz is at a definitive crossroads. One path leads to the sustained, disciplined dominance of Djokovic and Nadal, while the other leads to a career of sporadic brilliance plagued by inconsistency. The tennis world is desperate for him to choose the former, because an inspired Alcaraz is the sport's greatest asset. As the red clay of Rome and Madrid beckons, the answer to our question will soon be written in the dirt. Will Carlos Alcaraz reclaim his focus and remind the world why he was the youngest #1 in history? Or will the love life circus continue to drown out the sound of his racket? The scoreboard never lies, and as Sinner climbs higher, the time for fun is rapidly running out. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and see the truth behind the PR-managed headlines, stay tuned to this channel. We don't just watch the game, we analyze the human cost of being at the top. Don't forget to like and share. The real conversation starts now.